Yes. Good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Alexander Savoysky. I'm a Vice President of Moscow organization Alliance BRICS, and I would like to tell you about our activity very shortly. Yes, we have two organizations, Alliance BRICS and Sail of Hope. Sail of Hope has a special consultative status with ECOSOC of the United Nations and International Alliance of BRICS Strategic Projects is the Russian organization who can unite some possibility between civil society of BRICS countries. So, very shortly, the task of International Alliance of BRICS Strategic Projects is the creation of the territory, the main purpose of which is identification and support of civil initiatives. Alliance experts are ready to carry out continuous assessment of social undertaking to give them an impetus to development through advice and support from the federal and international level professionals, facilitating the test of the launch period, selecting the competent and professional partners, providing staff and both among to the registered in the program, and among the other participating countries, as well as remotely. BRICS is coming into the world, and the world is coming in BRICS. International Alliance of BRICS Strategic Projects is a community of experts and specialists to establish and develop public international relations in various fields. Optimal selection of partners for the promotion of projects of international format, which are consistent with the general program of the BRICS. Today, one of the leading factors of social destabilization, leading to a variety of negative and even destructive phenomena in many countries, and particularly in countries where a standard of living and education of the population are below the critical level, is a growing gap between the management strategy and the daily life of society. Next page, please. Rina, next page, please. Thank you. So I would like to read the welcome speech from our president, Larisa Zelentsova. So, dear colleagues and friends, participants of the forum, permit me to express my gratitude to the forum for constantly drawing attention to people with disabilities, protection of their dignity, rights, and well-being, stressing and advantages which a society gets due to their participation or in political, social, economic, and cultural life. It's not a secret that today most of our fellow citizens concerned to people with disabilities with a pity or an emotional neglects. Even our hostility without understanding that they are whose people who deserve special attitude towards themselves. Quite often society perceive a person with disability as poor without capabilities with the lost opportunities, which requires material support and daily help. A person who can't realize themselves in society. The principle of respect of future of people with disability, and the main thing, their perception as part of mankind, is enshrined in the United Nations Convention on the Right of People with Disabilities. Thus, the society understands that the main problem of a person with disability is not lack of a wheelchair and artificial limb, and even not small pension, and above all for them is to have opportunities to exercise the right to live, to education, to employment, and to self-realization. Do you know what such famous representatives of mankind as composer Frédéric Chopin, Johann Sebastian Bach, artist Leonardo da Vinci, Claude Monet, Edgar Degas, the famous French actress Sarah Bernard, and many others had vital issues with health, but each person in the world knows about their achievements, and it didn't prevent them to become the great. Isn't it paradoxical that Ludwig van Beethoven had big problems with hearing? One of the United States presidents, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, had severe defeat of the musculoskeletal device and moved all his life in a wheelchair. The famous British physicist and author of The Theory of Black Holes, Professor Stephen Hawking, who is called modern Einstein, and who was changed more than 40 years to a wheelchair and could communicate with the world only by means of a computer synthesizer of a speech, made flight by a special design plan to field state of facelessness. Image. Despite heavy disability, Hawking researched the fundamental laws managing the universe. He, the 8th genius from the 100 genius in the present list, continued to lead a full-fledged life, learning new and granting the knowledge to the world. It is important that government and non-governmental organizations, private companies paid attention to insensitive and innovate actions for future use of the international standard and standard concerning people with disabilities. Schools, universities, and other educational institutions shall create proper conditions for their training. Mass media can make a especially valuable contribution to case of support of people with disabilities. To distribute information on disability, shortcoming of medical services, imperfection of education and professional training, to report about the achievement and problems arising when carry out social policy about the program and projects directed to support of people with disability, to promote understanding by society of need of not just abstract human attitude towards people with disability, and the specific active help to it. And their activity are limited to physical, social, psychological, and other barriers. We live in an era of high technologies and computer communications. It is a unique opportunity to create all conditions for full activity of people with disabilities, to provide them with work and to use all their intellectual potential. At the beginning of the 21st century, to leave a considerable part of the population of the globe outside a society is not just a tragedy, but a crime. Everyone has to define for himself that he can personally make for people who daily threw down a challenge to destiny and daily overcome themselves. Thank you and good luck for all participants. So, next page, please, Rina. Thank you. The Russian delegation of the International Public Charitable Organization for Assistance to Persons with Disabilities, Cell of Hope, carefully read to report of the Secretary General of the United Nations on the priority theme addressing inequality and challenges to social inclusion through fiscal, wage and social protection policy. In May 2018, the President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, signed a decree on national goals and strategic objectives for the development of the Russian Federation until 2024. One of the main national goals is to improve the living standards of citizens, create comfortable conditions for their living, as well as conditions and opportunities for self-realization and disclosure of talent of each person. Among the most important tasks that directly related to solving the problems of inequality and social integration is to ensure sustainable growth of real incomes of citizens. As part of the implementation of the above-mentioned decree of the President of the Russian Federation, at the end of last year, passport of 20 national projects were approved, 3 of which demography, health, and education contained a set of policy measures and institutions to reduce inequality. One of the most important activities of our organization is the creation and implementation of a program of system support and improvement of the equality of life people with disabilities and other citizens, the creation of conditions for active longevity. The worst consequence of inequality is poverty. Poverty and disability make a vicious cycle. Disability leads to poverty and poverty leads to disability. The President of the Russian Federation has set a task to reduce poverty by 2 times by 2024. Sustainable and dynamic economic development of the country, stable economic growth in Russia, while maintaining inflation and at the flow level and the accompanying increase in labor income of citizens are designed to contribute to the solution of the task. The main emphasis in the work on poverty reduction with the withdrawal of families with children, who now make up the bulk of the poverty from poverty. We access the recommendation of the United Nations General Secretary's report as extremely useful. In practice, the Russian Federation applies such approaches, which, in our view, greatly contribute to the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. About our organization, we are supporting the people with disability. We are no governmental organization. It means governmental initiative, governmental activity can be provided by official government organization. And now our goal, our activity is concerning only about supporting for people with disabilities. COVID, it's not our activities because COVID is global activities of our government, Russian government, and very large governmental organization. So about coronavirus, no, but about recommendation for supporting the person with disability, yes, on the page number 8.